Man, all that work to get to overtime for nothing. Why was that safety on the receiver?
And the game giveth and the game taketh away.
It sure does. We have a special guest today, Mr. Jerry V.
Let's clap it up for Mr. Jerry V, y'all.
We've quit the Jerry V band, and he's back.
He's back.
He's back.
Jerry V is the Bobby Brown to our new addition. He is back, man. We're happy to have him back.
Nice little
like,
but I thought you might do better than Bobby Brown, though.
No. I got one better. Okay. He's our David Ruffin to our Temptations.
That's better.
That's
right?
better.
That's a little better.
All right. Got you.
Curtis Mayfield would be nice, though, too.
Ooh. Wow. No.
Get it back.
No. I got one. He's our Teddy Pendergrass.
To the Harold Bell and the Blue Notes. Perfect. Yes.
I'm your John Baptiste.
Woo. All right now. Look, man, you're really making me feel better.
I want to see you wobble. I want to see you shake.
Oh man, so you're really making me feel better. But the Panthers, they clawed back today after a putrid performance for most of the game on both sides of the ball to tie the game up at 28 to go to overtime. And we gave it up with a touchdown. Guys, man, what were your feelings on the game today? I'm going to start with the guests first.
Exciting game to watch, a lot of pressure. It had all the things you want in a football game. But then the momentum, it was a perfect game, wasn't it? The game giveth and the game quickly taketh away. Because when they blocked the punt and went in for the touchdown, the whole swing. So within 2 minutes, Minnesota scores 2 touchdowns. And then there were miscommunications in the coverage against the Minnesota passing game. And Minnesota was putting big plays together. Great drive, great stretch run, great pressure. But goodness gracious, what a tough one to lose. Those turnovers just crushed your heart.
Right. Jamal?
Hopefully I'm not coming off as like too emotional, but that first half. Me, right? Not me, right? But that first half didn't look very professional. The offense didn't look it wasn't a very professional effort at all. There was a lot of sloppiness. There were penalties. There were about 58 drop passes. There was bad quarterback play. There was bad offensive line play. The offense was just dysfunctional from top to bottom. One specific thing that I thought about today, there was a report that came out last week where Robbie Anderson was upset with maybe the offense and the receivers coach, basically saying that the routes were predictable. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering how much credence can we give to that, being that the receivers didn't look like they were getting very open today, and being that the offense was that dysfunctional. So just kind of makes me wonder, was he justified in his anger last week?
I'm gonna say this. I counted at least 2 Robbie Anderson drops. I could be wrong. For you to throw a fit like that,
we'll talk about that.
You need to catch the balls that come your way.
You also need to catch the ball when they hit your hands as well. Absolutely.
And you also have to know when to break off a route.
Right.
There's that.
Wide receivers know how to break off routes, come back, help the quarterback, etc., and that communication. So, and Moore had some drops too. So I think somebody could play football first.
First play of the game set the tone. Nobody open.
Forced to
O-line, the pocket collapse. Darnold's flushed out.
It was a market.
Makes a bad decision instead of throwing the ball away. All of those things contributed to that interception, and the Panthers never recovered. It was that kind of game. I'll give them some credit for not giving up and showing some grit at the very end with scoring 11 points with 4 minutes left. I thought. Because I was like, that's not happening. And they did that. It's a shame, though. We couldn't even get the ball back in overtime to give our offense a chance.
Yeah. It's funny that Rule's saying is don't beat ourselves. And that's exactly what they've done the past 2 weeks.
Three.
Well,
it's one of those things. I mean, you could say it was the execution, or you could say it was the coaching. I think it's a combination of the two. The best teams in the NFL have that perfect mesh where the coaching and everything just lines up. The Panthers really, honestly, have not had that all season, even when they were 3-0. Either the players were out executing the coaching, or I don't know if the coaching has ever, in any of those 3 wins, sealed the game for us. But you know how when it came out that the head coach from Sycamore Bishop was using plays from Madden.
Yeah,
that's how I feel about the Panthers. That's what I feel like. Like, dog, y'all get that out of Madden. I can't call it.
Yeah. And it's funny because we saw a beautiful play call on the last score, on our last touchdown. And we saw this great quarter. Basically, we all saw the last drive. So you know what I'm thinking. Where the hell was it the first 3
y'all
quarters?
Couldn't do that?
We couldn't do this the first 3 quarters, really, guys.
They have to set the tone. And coming out, that Joe Brady has to make it easier for Sam to get in the rhythm. And you got to be creative with the play calling too. I mean, it's I don't know, man. It's
Minnesota was creative with their play calling. A lot of screens, a lot of QB rollouts, a lot of play action to keep Kirk Cousins. I'm sorry, you let Kirk Cousins throw for 400 yards and gave up almost 600 yards to the Minnesota Vikings.
Why does Kirk Cousins look like Joe Montana every time he plays us? Why is that?
The ball leaves Cousins' hands faster than it does Arnold's hands.
Right.
The release time's quick. He reads.
Well, he's got guys to do. The dudes be open.
Yeah. Well, they get open. They had quick routes. Ball gets out of his hands quick. Arnold is working with an offensive line that is unpredictable play to play. So that's going to discombobulate some of the play calling. But I agree with you. You got to adapt what you have up front in order to get the ball out of his hands to do it. But the turnovers were critical. They were big plays.
Yes.
Donald sees things I don't see. I'm not a professional quarterback. But if I'm playing touch football in the streets with the under construction guys, I'm going to know the difference if they're covered or not. And if I got an open spot to throw the football and when to eat it, I'd probably run for the touchdown myself personally.
Right.
And speaking of that, I'm glad you brought that up because
okay. I'll for you again. Every time I'm on this show, I prove to be too quick.
We can't do no with you, man. But
I got my sponsor, homemade Uncle Nicky's homemade tequila made in the basement. Jerry V appears on all podcasts. Uncle Nicky's homemade.
This show is sponsored to you by 7-Eleven.
I need some of that.
Non-alcoholic Slurpee.
I need some of that homemade tequila.
I need some of that tequila today, man. But to your point, man, I've been kind of talking about how Sam Darnold likes to throw in these tight windows. He's been doing it all season. And, those windows, they seem to be getting tighter and tighter. And those windows are just not there anymore. And you look at the stats today, 17 for 41. That's not going to get it done, y'all. There's no quarterback in the league who can do that week to week and expect to win. It's not going to happen.
The Panthers were 2 of 12 in third downs too.
Wow.
They couldn't convert on third down. They were 2 of 12 in third down conversion.
Can't win like that.
So.
Guys, I got a question. How much is CMC missed in this offense? and when he comes back, do you think they make an adjustment of how much of a load that he carries?
You have to balance Christian McCaffrey's load. That's why he's been injured.
Not here.
Like they were like, okay, we're going to run Christian McCaffrey 30 times a game. We're going to get him that. And remember, we talked about something on the show after the win against
Was it the Saints?
Yes, where the game was won. And they were still running McCaffrey in the fourth quarter. Yeah. We were like, is that a good idea? And Matt Rule was like, no, we're good. And then McCaffrey pulls up in the Dallas game with a hamstring. So when he comes back, yes, the Houston game. I feel like Chuba Hubbard is good enough to where you can take some of that load off McCaffrey, and that's what you have to do. Chuba Hubbard is not Christian McCaffrey, okay?
Depends on where you are. Come on, guys. Depends on where you are. I mean, what is the feeling of desperation on this team right now? You've lost 3 in a row. Let's say McCaffrey comes back, right? Now your patience is going to be tested. Do you limit his workload and possibly deny yourself winning a football team? And with all the money you've allocated to him, running backs, come on. Use a running back till you wear them out. And that's why you gave him the money. They're going to be desperate. What if they monitor him, limit his workload, cost them football games. That's a decision Steph has to make.
Well, then, I think that then speaks bigger to a lack of coaching. You can't tell me that the Saints, who ran a two-headed monster for all those years, look at what Dallas is doing now with Ezekiel Elliott and TP. The Panthers did it for years with
I think
D'Angelo Williams and Jay Stu.
I think it's more so about Chuba Hubbard than it is, just McCaffrey. Like, we have Chuba Hubbard's a pretty talented running back outside of not being able to catch a cold. But other than that, it's like you got two good backs.
Here's the thing about McCaffrey, though. We talked about this before. He lets you cheat on offense. The Panthers are getting away with cheating because you got a guy who no one can cover him one-on-one. You can bring him out of the backfield.
Put him in the slot.
You can put him out there in 5 wide, and you don't even need to sacrifice. You can do all kinds of stuff with him. You can put him in 5 wide and then have him drop back as a blocker against the blitz. You can do all kinds of.
Available. He's not available. You got to do with what you have. He's not available.
We
know what McCaffrey can do. We know what's missing. He's not available.
But see, that's the thing. If you don't have that,
tap the brakes. You don't adapt, you lose. Okay?
Yes, absolutely.
And listen, if your second and third tier personnel can't step up and replace what you currently have in the NFL, you don't win football games. And if you turn the ball over 3 times, you won't win football games.
All I'm saying is Rob Chodzinski
It's like talking about the woman that ain't coming back, okay?
All I'm saying is Rob Chodzinski is an assistant coach at Boston College right now. That's all I'm saying. No. Because Joe Brady, if he can't,
Boston College.
If he can't, call Boston College. What are they doing?
I'm gonna say,
you're desperate. You're on the brink. Don't let that
I'm going to say this. V-Man, you may not agree with me, but I do not think paying the running back top dollar is a recipe for winning in the NFL.
I never agree. I agree with you 100%. When they first paid him, I said on my talk show, they're going to regret that decision. You don't pay a running, although he's not.
You don't pay a wide receiver that hasn't done anything that same either. We did that. We gave Robbie Anderson all this money.
Let me take a 20 timeout, turn it into a full. He is not just a running back.
That's true.
He's also a receiver. Modern type offense is just like Bill Walsh back in the day. Utilize a running back that can run the ball, catch the ball, run after the catch. That's what he is. He's a multi-dimensional football player. What? The offensive line is hurting you right now, but they knew that going into the season. They got to address it. But guys, we knew when Rule took the gig, it's a rebuild job. And now everybody wants to take the Panthers and put it in a microwave and put 3 minutes on it to be cooked and ready to go. Legitimate championship contender. Come on.
Well, Jerry, we started 3-0, man.
You beat the Saints team missing 8 coaches. Key personnel were out.
6 snaps.
You play the Jets. Under construction in the V-Man.
Look, I can't argue that.
The 3-0 start was a mirage. It was a mirage, okay?
But losing to the Eagles.
Gentlemen,
the Eagles aren't as good as the Panthers.
Let me make my point. Look at the substance and the caliber of the talent. You went 3-0 against. It was nice to go 3-0. Don't get me wrong. If you're going to start critiquing a team, critique against the talent and the caliber of competition. Come on, let's relax.
Gotcha. Jerry, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think it was smart to go after Stephon Gilmore, C.J. Henderson? Those to me kind of scream win now type moves.
Yeah, they were screaming, that they think they could be good enough to go ahead and make a run right now. Now, remember what I said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
What is your mode of desperation? Because you're looking at the McCaffrey thing, and you looked at the 3-0. 3-0 entice you. Hypnotize you and draw you into the room and say, we're only in the 2 of upgrading our secondary, and we can win the NFC South. Did it do that? I'll ask you guys.
Well, but hold on. Did we lose these 3 games in a row because of lack of talent? No,
that's a fair
question.
No,
I don't think so. ESPN said the Panthers' offense 7th best as far as weapons.
I'm going to say this. Dallas is a more talented.
That's true. No, that's true.
Dallas is a better team than we are.
I'm going to
But see, my thing is this team? I mean, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have that grit and that toughness, we should have never lost that Philadelphia game at all. That was disgusting.
I'm just saying, in the NBA, if you have a talented team that's not winning, what's the first thing they do?
Fire the coach.
They fire the coaches. Now, I'm not saying Matt Rule should be fired because it's just year 2 of the rebuild.
You may be in the minority,
but I don't think I don't think you fire the coach at all. I think you give Matt Rule at least as long as you gave Ron Rivera 3 years.
Who selected the coach?
David Tepper.
The owner did. You think he's going to bail out on his?
No, absolutely not.
Wait a second. You think he's going to? Wait a second. You think he's going to bail out on his pick after 2 years and say, "I made a mistake"? Come on, please. It's a rebuild.
Let them do that. No,
but if we got talent and it's not producing, then it's something, right?
I think you are exaggerating the caliber of talent on this football team, especially when you look at the O-line. It's got to be redesigned. Okay, they need to do that. They definitely need to do that. They need to look at their secondary. They need more depth in the secondary. They had the injuries there. They need to replenish that. And the question is, does Darnold resort back to being a New York Jet quarterback? Does he blossom and become the better quarterback here? What we have seen so far from him is unpredictable play quarter to quarter. He shows you a series of plays where he is legitimate, then he shows you some where he is not with some of his decision making. So he's got to become more reliable and consistent as the season goes on for this team. But I'm not bailing right now. I'm not bailing. I'm not pulling a pin and bailing right now with all of this. I knew there were deficiencies coming into the season.
Right.
It's just I don't think the Panthers, except for Dallas, Minnesota's not more talented than Carolina, and neither is Philadelphia, right?
Philadelphia.
You can have great talent. You can have talent on both teams. It's all about who's performing best in a key series of plays within the game. That's what it is. And the Panthers aren't getting it done during key junctures of the game, a key series of plays. Turnover, nice drive. Look at it. Turnover, ball security. You can have talent. It's the old cliche, the game of mistake. When does the mistake occur within that series of plays? And right now they're hurting themselves.
Speaking of that, let's talk about this second quarter where we drive into field goal range and we take ourselves out of field goal range because of gross mismanagement by coaching. Penalties. There's a holding penalty in that drive. That 2 timeouts that they wanted to call back to back, but couldn't call them back to back because of the rules.
Was bad.
That was bad. That was the sloppiest I've ever seen any game.
I got a question. Jeremy might be able to give us an answer on this. I remember one of the biggest knocks against the Ron Rivera, Cam Newton era was that yes, it would take too long for the plays to come in. And the Panthers would snap the ball with like 0 on the clock. And there was a lot of people that said, well, Cam's not good in the huddle getting the plays, or the play calls weren't coming down fast. Well, now we're seeing it with a completely new coaching staff. And we had the same issue last year with Teddy. So is it what is it? Why are the plays coming in so slow? Why are the Panthers always flirting with the delay of game and in these situations where they got to call back-to-back timeouts, which is illegal? I don't understand that.
Is it a technical issue? I don't know. Keep headphones. Is it a lack of decisiveness issue? Is there a something wrong in the chain of command, or who has the final say? Where is this delay? It could be a variety of things, but I haven't looked at that as being a big problem for this Panther team. That didn't even dawn on me. And by the way, it took me 1.5 years of therapy to get the name Cam Newton out of my head, who, by the way, everybody overhyped the past 2 years of his career. So I'm not even going to go there. Just like they're overhyping the caliber of talent on this current Panther team, you see. Once again, the lack of patience. And again, you're thinking of that microwave idea in the NFL with this club. It's redesigned top to bottom. I can't wait to listen to the show when the Panthers move to the new stadium.
And Raquel,
no, they will never, ever move.
It's gonna be across the street.
It's gonna be across the street.
Yep.
And that Piper Foundry land.
Yep.
I have a question. All right, so you mentioned a couple of times that we should have kind of expected this, and we're in the rebuild. But some of these moves, like getting Stephon Gilmore and getting C.J. Henderson, to me, it doesn't speak rebuild. So can you see?
Well, that's why I said, were they mesmerized by the 3-0 start and exaggerating what their talent is? Were they hypnotized by the 3-0 start and thinking they're just a few pieces away from winning the NFC South? Plus, it's a 17-game season. It's a long way to go before anybody starts pushing the restart button.
And I just want to be clear. When you say they, you mean Panthers management? Like, are you?
Yeah, anytime I say
well, if you have a chance to get
whoever's making the decisions on who is designing the roster, and because we don't know, other key teams might get hit by injury. Panthers, they might improve in certain areas. The additional personnel might be a great help. McCaffrey might come back feeling good with a hamstring, and that could dramatically alter everything. My question to you is, the caliber of competition in games 1, 2, and 3, did that hypnotize you and put you in a trance into thinking they're better than what they are at this point of the schedule? You can get better or you can get worse, of course.
Also, those 3 games, we had everybody. We're missing key players on defense. We miss Shaq Thompson today more than the 3 of us want to admit because we've been on Shaq. We miss, I think
we miss J.C. Horn because in that scenario you don't have a safety trying to cover a receiver for the last play of the game.
And of course you miss Christian McCaffrey. So the Panthers aren't exactly the same team that they were.
Everybody hurt. Everybody hurt.
I feel like
remember when Moses brought the big rock, the big plaque to the people? Remember that? When you turn that around, you don't want to sit on the back. In the NFL, you're as good as your second and third tier talent.
But we didn't put third tier talent. They had starters.
How does your talent measure up at the same position to the talent at the same position of the opposing team? How does your second and third tier talent measure up to the second and third tier talent of the teams you have to beat in your division? As where the comparison comes right now. And then what impacts that? Health.
Yeah, that's true. The Panthers are missing depth in key positions here. But the Stephon Gilmore trade, if you have a chance to get a guy like him for nothing, which is essentially what happened, why not? C.J. Henderson, that's different because the Panthers had to give up some stuff to trade for a guy, and nobody knew Stephon Gilmore was even going to be available the following week. I think if the Panthers had known they could get Gilmore, they might not have pulled the trigger on the Henderson trade.
Deal, right.
I don't think the Gilmore is necessarily a win now move. I think that's kind of, we don't want anyone else to get him, and we got a chance to get him later.
I thought it was a move they felt we enhanced that section of our football team. It makes us a better team, gives us a better shot to win our division. I think they saw 3-0, and they still think that they are good enough to make a whole lot of noise in the NFC South. Remember in today's game, they lost today's game because of mistakes.
Right.
That's true.
Now you go back and you break the game tape down and you pull out all the good stuff on the plays that you won, the plus plays that you won against Minnesota. Look at the point of the drive when a turnover came, except for that very first one on the interception. Look where you were, field position, execution. Where were you efficient? Did the one mistake wipe it all out? Because if you're one or two mistakes from winning a football game, well, then you don't have a lot to improve upon except for ball security.
Right.
Yep.
V-Man, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Why is it that when we have a home game, it's always a 50-50 split between the Panthers fans and the opponent fans? Quite frankly, I'm sick of seeing it. I'm tired of the excuse we're a young team. It's almost been 3 decades. What is your take on this?
Transient city. There's people that move in. Charlotte is a transient city. It's a transient city, and there's people that live from all other areas of the country here. and they keep their allegiance to their home team. And Minnesota fans, they travel well. That's what it is. It is what it is. It's been that way for years and years. Remember when Green Bay's in town and when the Cowboys are in town? It's long-term built-in allegiance. Now, when you consistently win football games instead of not having back-to-back winning seasons or a lack of playoffs through the years, that's going to impact the emotional involvement and engagement of a team. I mean, of a fan base. And that's what's happened. Like, for example, I'm a New York Giants fan. Even though they stink right now, I'm not going to cut them against the team I grew up with. And other people aren't going to do it to other teams, right?
Right,
so
right.
So a hometown team comes to town, for them, if they live there and had allegiance to it, they're going to stick with it. That's the way it goes. They got to win. They got to have consistent winning. That's what Tampa wants to do.
Because in 2016, when we were 15-1, we didn't see this as much. You know what I mean? I went to almost all the games then, and I don't remember seeing 50-50 splits. It was mostly us. So winning carried on, basically.
Give people a reason to go to the stadium, listen it on the radio, watch it on TV. You got to fuel that passion. You got to fuel that winning.
Yeah, instead of targeting.
Yeah, we're not Cleveland.
Right.
No, Cleveland has said because people don't have the time. People aren't going to invest all the time on a maybe. They want to invest their time on what it will be. And
right.
What is it? This little off topic. What does it take to be a Cleveland? They've never been good, ever. Not in my lifetime. Never. They've never been good. They've never been good.
You were a toddler.
They've never been good in my lifetime. I've been on the earth 42 years. How many playoffs have the Cleveland Browns been to?
But they have history, they have passion, and at the time they had a fan base and a media that was incredibly, still do, demanding to perform, and it's built in the culture. It's built in down here when the Panthers came in, which I was when they first started. We are in the holy land of basketball, especially college basketball, football. The NFL comes in, and yes, I agree with you. They've been here long enough to get something going, but they haven't been a consistent winner. Some people are thinking, they got to the Super Bowl that 2015 with Cam. That should be enough to excite the whole city. No, show me again. And they failed to do that.
And those football tickets are a lot of money.
I'm going to make a bold statement. This city will never ever be anything like any of those other cities. I don't care if we win 20 Super Bowls. It will never, ever happen because there's too much divisiveness about, one, the value of sports in Charlotte. We had to cheat and lie to get Time Warner Cable Arena. Nobody in the city wanted. The fans voted against that, and it had nothing to do. And the Hornets at the time, although they had left, remember the Hornets were a perennial playoff team when they went to New Orleans. They weren't
bottom feeders,
right? They weren't bottom feeders anymore, and nobody cared.
I was with them for 22 years.
You know.
I was here when the Panthers first showed up.
So I think what Jerry V is saying, like a transient city, people bring their old teams. I mean, the amount of dominance that it would take to just for everyone to be a Panthers fan.
It's unrealistic.
Exactly.
It's unrealistic.
Consistency of the win column, being a transient city, the up and downness, etc. I look at it this way too. Let's not forget this caveat. When Jerry Richardson was the owner of this team, sometimes I wonder, how bad did he want it? He didn't even build a practice facility.
Yeah,
you're right. I fully agree.
Let's look at it. Let's look at it. Let's look. How driven and possessed was the organization to be a Super Bowl team? And I know you can come back and say, well, they got there a couple of times. How driven? How do you not build a practice facility for an NFL? That was number one. Okay. So, and now you got an aggressive owner that comes in. Aggressive as hell, and I love it that he is. People are trying to jam him up because they're not winning right away. They have no patience. See what I mean? No patience. Why don't they have patience? Haven't had back-to-back winning tough seasons. You haven't been reliable. I hope they get there because the fan base is deserving. And I know a lot of hardcore football fans in this area. The diehard love it. Panther fans. You got to give them something. Give me something, as the saying goes.
I'm gonna ask a question nobody wants to ask, and I hate to go here, but this is observation, and I have to ask this question: how much of this has to do with Cam Newton not being here again? Let me expound for a second. We know how relevant he made us. Let's not even talk about wins and losses, okay? Let's talk about exposure and how cool it was to be a Panthers fan. How much of what we're seeing now is due to him no longer being a Carolina Panther?
I don't think much.
Zero. Absolutely zero. That's the indicator. That's the problem.
We if Cam was still here and we're losing,
not supporting your pro team because Cam Newton isn't here. That's an indicator you're not hardened enough of a fan base.
Well,
that's Charlotte.
Because I heard it every day when I would say he's on a 3-year downtick. We broke it down. We extrapolated all the numbers, all the trends, all the games, and some fans still refuse. They still live by the wow moments of big plays in 2015 and couldn't see what was happening in the now. And who's he playing for now?
About to be playing for us again if Sam Darnold don't. It's just that fans gravitate.
You're on the phone or somebody come and bless this show.
Fans gravitate. They use players for relevance, and relevance builds. I'll give you a perfect example. This is a good segue. No, thank you. Nobody would care about the Charlotte Hornets if LaMelo Ball wasn't playing for us. Nobody would care. We get no national games. Nobody, and I say this as someone who spends a lot of time in the Hornets group, more time than my mental health really
allows sometimes
should allow for it. But before LaMelo Ball was drafted, we had maybe 6,000 members.
Right now,
we started that group in 2013.
Yep.
Over 1 year, we're already up past 11K. The Hornets haven't won anything.
That's great.
But what I'm saying is that
you don't make the playoffs. That's great.
If LaMelo Ball, if the Hornets didn't make the playoffs, you'd still have Charlotte Hornet LaMelo Ball fans. You know what I'm saying? They would be they're just here for LaMelo.
Will you have Charlotte Hornet fans?
No, but listen.
Let's say LaMelo Ball goes to the Lakers or goes.
Then we lose out for fans. They're gone. I don't care if the Hornets win the championship. If he goes to the Lakers, then they're going with him.
But Jerry, that actually
playoffs. Get into the playoffs. Let's get a little hardcore here. Get into the playoffs. Make demands on the entire roster and the coaching staff to get into the playoffs, and let's build that way. Because if you're telling me that Cam Newton's going to determine whether or not a fan base is going to be behind this Panther team.
It's not a fan base.
I'm going to make Donald Duck sounds all week walking around.
It's not a fan base. It's not a fan base. We don't have good. I don't think Charlotte has good sports fans. I've traveled the world, and so have you guys. Yeah. Look, Jerry, you lived in another sports town. You've lived in other sports towns. Someone even in the comments said Panthers fans are the wine and cheese crowd. And I remember when the Panthers first came into the league, that was kind of the league joke.
Right.
But it's kind of the truth. Actually, if the Panthers,
let me tell you why. But it has changed to a degree over the past few years.
I agree.
There weren't enough demands made of the team. There wasn't the passion at the time coming from the media. You didn't hear the scrutiny and the daily conversation. You hear it now about the team, about the Panthers, about the Hornets, the consistent flow of information, 12 months a year like they do in the city, about your basketball team and your football team. And to be a hardcore, pro-devoted fan base, it has to be a constant because you didn't counter the competition against North Carolina, the ACC, and the college fans that grew up with it. God bless them. They grew up with it. So now there's something else on the buffet table. You needed to constantly feed them and show them. Plus, let's face it, the Panthers were getting their booties big and all the mess was going around. They handled the mess going on in the Panther front office with kid gloves.
It's a mentality that we had, like, we're just happy to be here. And at some point, you got to grow up. And it took us a little longer to grow up, but we're finally getting to that point where we're actually holding ownership accountable. I wish that people would hold Temper more accountable sometimes than they hold Jordan accountable, but it goes hand in hand.
There you have it. There you have it. And it's to this day and age, as long as the Hornets have been in existence, and now the Panthers, to still be talking about wine and cheese and it's upsetting. It's
very absolutely.
But I mean, that's on our fans, and part of the problem is that.
But I think it's slight exaggeration of it. I think part of it now is an exaggeration because the people that I'm around, they talk some hardcore basketball and football.
Right.
I mean, hardcore. Yeah, they are into it. But
Jerry, I feel like that's a small circle.
Your emotional feeling because the team's not playing well and it's your frustration. Are the young fans getting engaged with this club? I think Harvard is doing a much better job of talking with more and greater consistency about the product. And hopefully it's going to – you got to win. You got to win. Nobody can throw money around. You got to win. Win. Get it going to tickle the fan base.
I don't know. I think of examples like the Cleveland Cavaliers. How many fans they got now?
I mean,
zero. When LeBron James left, everyone left with him. I'm not saying LaMelo Ball is LeBron James.
I'm gonna say this. Cleveland has had a professional basketball team for 40, 50 years now. They still have more of a diehard fan base than we do.
Well, because they've had a professional basketball team for
years. You got to look at it like they had the good runs in the late 80s, early 90s. And in Cleveland, just as a pro sports city, they're more established with their norms.
That's
talk shows.
It's way more of a part of a culture than
Charlotte. To the culture.
Charlotte sports culture is a subculture.
But see, the thing is, I guess the point I'm making is that Cleveland never got to be that culture because they were winning necessarily. They weren't winning anything before LeBron James came. They weren't winning anything when LeBron James was there until he left and came back.
Look, man.
But they still love their team.
Watch.
It's their team.
Exactly.
It's their team.
So what do we got to do to make the Hornets?
They got history. They have footage in their archives that are black and white. That
they do.
That's true. Yeah.
They got footage you only get on the reel to reel. And that history is passed along from great-grandfather to father to son and on. They have history. They have legacy. You have that in the Carolinas with sports. You have it more. You would have it more if you win consistently and give the fan base, give them a reason to fall in love with the product at a different level. Economy's playing a role in everything else. You're going to leave your house. You're getting some of the fan. I've never been to a game, so I'm going to go. They'll go. And it's different now as far as people going. Do you want to get people to the arena? You've got to consistently give them a product that's entertaining and that wins games and gives you playoff hope every year. You want to know why? Because you can stay home on a 60-inch screen and have your own snacks and sit in your comfortable chair and watch the product instead of fighting traffic. You want a fan to fight traffic? Not just the casual fan who watches the game, fight the traffic. God forbid sit set to a knucklehead fan that's screaming and yelling like an idiot, and whatever. Win consistently. Put a product on the court and on the field that is captivating to entice fans to want to get up close. So they can't turn off the TV and go, we're losing again, I'm going to bed.
Right. So speaking of losing again and going to bed, the Panthers, not the Panthers, the Hornets.
Real quick, picks for next week.
Next week, we play the Giants next week. Who do you got next week, Jerry?
I have to stay with my Giants. I mean, I grew up with the Giants. My father turned over in the grave and said,
we just talked all that about fans in Charlotte.
I'm sorry. My betting app just lit up when I heard that. That's why. As far as fans are concerned, It's got to be more Carolina fans that'll be here next week against the Giants.
I think
it's in New York. It's in New York.
Are the Giant fans going to want to follow? I mean, the Giants are having a tough year. They're having a rough year right now.
so.
If this was a game with different implications, maybe they would. So I'm going to say I'll give credit to the Carolina fans.
They should win.
When you discuss this, makes me feel like I'm at a JV game. You know what I mean? I mean, this is the thing. See, we should be talking about the product, and now the fans are hearing the same old again, which is an indicator that we're still dealing with the fan issue. So, we're suffocating the idea and the story to grow the enthusiasm. I keep bringing up the same old other fan base. Stop it. Let's talk about the product to bring the fan base in to talk about the product. Follow me?
Gotcha. So speaking of the product, which product wins next week? I'm going us. We better win next week. The sky will fall if we. No offense, Mr. Jerry. The sky will fall if we lose to the damn Giants next week. It is a must win. I know we're talking about Game 7 of the season. That is a must win next week. I cautiously have us winning 27.
You're not offending me because it's the Giants. I'm going to add to what you said.
Gotcha.
The sky will fall and the earth will part. It'll be a reenactment of the sports Pompeii. You lose to the Giants, and I love it. Panthers, you're right. Panthers have to win next week.
I can't call it. I can't make
hold on a minute. Hold on. Let me bless myself.
Okay. Bless this pod. Thank you.
This pod and hold
So last week we picked
a great time hanging out with you guys. It's always fun.
We can't wait to get you back in the studio too.
Well, that's what you said a year and a half ago.
That's
we had a pandemic and stuff, man. Sorry.
Virus goes through your computer.
Point taken.
It can.
Point taken.
How many podcasts I did during my isolation?
I bet. Yeah, I bet you're a hot commodity for the podcast land.
Kaiser, you didn't sound confident, man. So are you picking the Giants next week, bro?
No.
I think the Vikings next week.
I'm with you on this one. If the Panthers aren't foaming at the mouth next week to win that football game and they lose, your next podcast will be nothing but an hour and a half of silence.
I'm good with that, actually, because I won't have.
Looking at this greatest
You three should get a casket. Each one lay in the casket, and then have the camera pan in if the Panthers were to lose, and just do still shots, which you guys do.
If the Panthers lose next week, only Hornets next week.
That's it. We won't even talk about it.
I'm not talking about.
No. You can't do that. See,
you're not being a good fan.
You cannot bail out on your team when they go.
They gotta get me a
you can't say you're not going to talk about it when they lose. You hammer them if they lose next week because that fuels the fan base. You hold them accountable and hold them
next week if they lose.
That's true. No, Jerry's right about that. You have to let them know how poor of a product that is. If they lose next week, though, I can't. I mean, obviously, we'll have to see what happens during the game.
I'm starting to get
I can't call it. Is it coaching or talent? I understand that we're in a rebuild, but I just hate hearing that because I don't. With these losses, except for the Dallas loss, I just don't feel like Philly in Minnesota are better teams than Carolina,
right?
At least on the field.
I'm sorry, Rodney. Who you got next week, man?
Hornets.
Just skip the game.
Hornets by 60. 68.
31-21 Panthers.
All right.
With a defensive score and a special team score.
Do we even want to pick an offensive MVP this week?
No.
Chuba Hubbard.
Nobody.
Defensive MVP? I got Keith Taylor Jr.
The Vikings fans.
That's it.
We're gonna move on.
Let's move on.
Rodney.
So on Wednesday night, the other professional sports team in the city that just lost by 68 points.
The season's over.
In the preseason game.
We're done. It's over.
Starts the season. Who do we play against on Wednesday?
Pacers.
Yep.
Which is, I think, the best game to start the season with.
Because that's the game we ended last season.
Yeah, exactly.
On. And so we play the Pacers. V-Man, I'm going to start with you. How are you feeling regarding the Hornets this season upcoming?
I have a tremendous anticipation and hope for them.
Mm-hmm.
I know what the reality is. I know the areas of play that I feel they have to improve upon to become a playoff team. I know that. It's fairly obvious to me what the needs are. I'm anticipating and looking forward to see how much Ball has, what he will bring this year. I'm looking forward to see the new additions on how they will add. I want to see what rookie maybe evolves and makes an early contribution. But there's certain areas of play that concern me going into this season that I must see improve upon.
So I got to ask the obvious question, which another question I don't want to ask, but this is something that's on the fans' minds. What was the level of concern after the 68-point blowout in a meaningless preseason game?
Zero.
Thank you.
Zero. I mean, it's literally it's preseason. We had 3 starters out. LaMelo played 11 minutes. PJ got hurt. And
Miles got hurt.
And so I don't put much stock into that game. The Mavs treated it more like a dress rehearsal than we did. We were just trying not to get hurt further at the end of the game, to me.
Yeah, we said this last week. I said there's an old boxing saying, real pros know when to spar, when to fight. What are you going to – if all your starters are hurt and not playing major minutes, what are you out there thinking you're trying to accomplish? The Hornets aren't out there and a lot of people are you still got to play as hard as you can. Okay, well, that's fine, but the Mavericks played all their starters. They have Porzingis and Luka out there into the third quarter. What are guys who are probably not even going to make the team? You got Wes Iwundu out there. What is he going to do against Luka Doncic? Nothing.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, sir.
Why couldn't the question be answered quickly and briefly? What are your concerns about that final loss? Answer: none.
Because
the veteran players use preseason as a conditioning timing thing. You're not going to overexpose an established player in the last preseason game. The rookies are looking at it for further evaluation and to be tested. Not all the play calls have been introduced. Not all the defensive nuances are going to be exposed during the preseason. It's very basic basketball. They'll put in a couple of basic fundamental wrinkles to see how you handle it. Are you following instruction? Are you recall what was said in the huddle as a rookie going out onto the floor? Your defensive assignments, your flow of the game. Nobody cares. I did 22 years of preseason. I used to medicate myself during preseason games to zombie state, so I wouldn't have to broadcast those games. I'm looking for the regular season. That last blowout, I couldn't believe it. Hey, guys were asking me in my message box, how concerned are you with the big loss? I said, I'm in a bathtub right now with hot water and I cut my wrist. I don't care. Goodness gracious.
But the fans do.
No, and listen, it's your job to tell them why they shouldn't care. It's your job and my job and everyone else. And I'm not mad at you. I'm just trying to give you an entertaining podcast.
We know. It's good to hear from somebody else.
Their eyes where they're supposed to go during a preseason game. Coaches evaluate preseason games differently. They look at it differently. Sometimes I don't even pay attention to the score. They might create a situation in the huddle for a young player or two. Okay, we're going to see how you do the next 5 minutes.
I'm glad you said that because I think a lot of people don't understand that sometimes the coaches will purposefully put players at a disadvantage during the preseason to see, to see.
Like the Miami game,
right?
When we're up in the fourth quarter and JB takes everybody out. And he basically pushed the G Leaguers out there to see how they would react in the last 2 minutes of a game.
And
I want to see how you react. Your guy just scored on you 4 straight times. And I asked you, are you going to guard somebody tonight? I want to see how you react to your chops and how you're going to be in a situation. So there's mental evaluation, physical evaluation, and the mental on recalling a play, running the play, the mental challenge, the conditioning, the little things. Are you transitioning from offense to defense? Are you finding your man? Are you doing this? Are you closing out? So they can have game tape to show the young player this
Right.
is what you did well, this is what you didn't do well. That way, it transfers to individual work and preparation to make the player better.
Right. And people don't realize, too, like you said, that they have to make roster cuts.
Exactly.
You basically have 20 people on the roster. You got to chop it down to 15. And you got to mix and match players, see how they play off each other. And you got to evaluate, okay, if Gordon Hayward gets injured and Kelly Oubre gets injured, can I depend on this guy to fill in the need and do what he's supposed to do? Like you said earlier, you're looking for depth. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not playing my starters heavy minutes in the preseason. I'm trying to see what I got. They're already established.
I want to put you in a pressure situation. I'm coming. Oh, excuse me. This mic. Excuse me, babe. Let me do this. Thank you so much.
Missing Pop.
My girl right here, my squeeze. But I want to. We're in the timeout. I go to you guys. Okay, you three guys. We're gonna run whatever the play is.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say let's say you're down 25. Ignore the score. We're down 2. We need a bucket. We're going to measure your effort and performance over the next 10 possessions. We're going to evaluate you defensively, offensively. Go run the stuff. So now I got a 10-play package, let's say, 10-possession package. I edit out the game. I take it to the tape room later, and I show you 3 guys. This is when I told you were down 2 or 3. Let's chart the 10 possessions that you guys were in. Now your eyes are locked on that tape. Who cares you're down 25? We create the mini game. We call them mini games within the game to give a grade to you. Right? Mm-hmm. So I look for something positive to make you feel good. And then I got to pull out coaching points we need to work on. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. So I don't think Coach Brago and anybody on that staff, disappointed with the margin. They pull stuff out of preseason games to help build and develop their players.
Right. And how prevalent is it that there are some guys who know they're not going to be on this team? They know they're not going to make the cut. So
but your agent's telling you. You never know who's watching you. Sometimes you play real hard because you might get picked up by someone else, and maybe you get a shot there. An injury might happen. Oh, I remember you. Well, we need somebody, my 12th man, maybe. Let's bring him back that we had in camp. So you're playing to maintain the longevity in the league or trying to get into the league.
Yeah. Right. So, Jerry, you spoke that you kind of already know what some of the obvious needs are for this team going into the season. Yeah. Let's talk more about that. Okay. What are those needs? And if you are Jerry Kupchak, are you trying to fill those needs this season or next season, or what's what? What do you do about these
performance needs? And the roster isn't done yet. Okay, because you're still evaluating. Right. But what I'm going to measure this team on is number 1. I do not like the fact that they were predominantly a 3-ball team. Mm-hmm. I think this is a better basketball team. For example, they were number 8 in the league with 3s attempted, okay? And they were number 9 in the 3s made. However, their overall offensive efficiency put them in the bottom part of the market. They were number 21. Why? They don't get to the line enough. Right. They weren't a very good effective field goal shooting team, which is the true indicator on your scoring, because effective field goal measures the combination of making your jumpers and your free throws. They don't get to the line enough. This is a better team. I think if they will play at 3 different levels. The 3, the lane area, mid-range, restricted area, with contact, to enhance the number of trips of getting to the line, where they are very, very low. They're very low. In fact, they rank in the bottom 5 or 6 getting to the free throw line in the NBA. Okay? Because they relied so much on the 3, it impacted their defense. Their defensive efficiency, they're 18th. Their offensive efficiency, they were 21. Their points per game, they were 22. So they're overall shooting. They're not that great a shooting team outside of the 3. Now, here's the other thing. Their defensive efficiency, I mentioned at 18. They are not a good defensive rebounding team. That's a tough man stat.
Yeah.
No, I've always said there are two big indicators that tell me a team has live legs and they are mentally tough and ready to play. One is defensive rebounding. When the ball goes up, who is going to go get it to limit the opposition from getting other opportunities? The other thing that tells me you're alive and alert and ready to play is how sharp and precise are your defensive rotations. And they had major slippage. And this number here in the league, opponents knocking the three down with too much efficiency against you. You're not getting out the three ballers. So those two areas right there, I think, are huge. Improve defensively from the defensive rebounding standpoint, from your team defense, rotations, closeouts, because that tells me you're totally engaged. And then I'm going to measure their shooting. But I do not think this team taps in all of their potential if they continue to rely so heavily on shooting the three. Now, look, I know it's a big trend in the NBA. I know a lot of teams are shooting a lot of threes. But I'm looking at this team. The creativity of ball, when the ball is in his hands, lead to a lot of cutters, play actions, ball getting in the lane that should lead to contact to increase free throws. Open floor with Rozier and him. You know, can you get out and maneuver, play action, cutting, slashing, three ball, mix up your scoring? Because if they get to the line more, rest a little better, right?
Right.
Get into the mid-range game, drawing more fouls, right? The post game, what do you think? You know, they got PJ Washington and Bridges and all also adding and working on their back to the basket game. I would like to see them become a three-level offensive team. 3, 2, restricted area, bottom of the lane to the free throw line.
And that to me, that makes perfect sense because I kind of feel like it gets really ugly with us when the three doesn't fall. Yes. I kind of feel like the score, we see maybe not 68-point losses, but feel like we see some wider margins in losses when our threes are not falling.
No, and that's a good point. And let me validate your point even further. Let me further emphasize why I think your point is spot on. The Hornets were 22nd in the league in field goals made. 22nd in field goals made. 18th in attempted. You're not a playoff.
Yeah, that's bottom half. The numbers kind of go hand in hand there.
Mix up your scoring. You got to mix it up and become a team that is tougher to defend with
than to be so predictable.
Cuts, play action, ball movement, the three ball to mix it like like some of those great San Antonio teams played with Ginobili and Parker and Duncan, who are a total pain in the tuchus to try to defend. They had so much action going off the ball. In
so many ways.
I'd like to see the Hornets implement that more.
I'm going to say this. I think this offseason the Hornets became a worse three-point shooting team with the loss of Monk and Graham. But I think that they added enough versatility in Ish Smith and Oubre, not necessarily known as three-point shooters, but I like the creativity of Ish. And I think Oubre can put pressure and get to the basket and get to the line.
Yeah, he could be that sixth man for you. He could be the guy that comes off the bench and gets you 15, 16 a night.
Right. And so, and I actually like the move of PJ going to the bench as well, starting the season. But what's the area of concern to me, like you mentioned, is rebounding. To me, we really did not address that center position. Plumlee is nice. He's okay. But I really think that you needed more of a force at that 5 position. And I don't really necessarily think Kai Jones is ready or Nick Richards is ready to play heavy minutes in the NBA at this point. So I don't want to see PJ Washington at the 5. That didn't work for me.
I think everyone agrees that the 5 is the big. Even Borrego last season in a comment that
the quote was hilarious.
Right? Yeah, like, hey, they got to get me somebody at the 5 is essentially what he was saying.
Battery low.
But I mean, that's a tough position.
We were looking at rim protection.
Right. It's
what I said earlier. And I think that Plumlee. I think that Plumlee could be a 12, 9 rebound guy per night, 12 points, 9 boards a night.
Yeah.
I think he's decent enough to hold serve you. But we're talking about in so many of the games that I saw, and people were saying we need a rim protector. And that's great to have because it would have helped disguise the many times that I saw what I mentioned earlier, that alert off the ball, rotating closeouts, when to switch, when not to type of defensive play.
Mm-hmm.
Because you wanted the rim protector to help bail you out, 3 or 4 possessions per game. But I think if they build up and improve collectively as a defensive unit, then I think that would offset.
Right.
And sometimes you can get a small guy at the 5 based on what other teams are putting on.
Borrego seems to be very matchup oriented. And I think what a lot of fans don't realize is that to get rebounds, you need rebounding opportunities.
Right.
And teams don't miss that much against the Hornets. Therefore, there are less rebounds to be had. I think, we shore up defense. We make teams miss more. There are more rebounding opportunities to go around. And I think that would make more of an impact than just having a guy that we say, okay, so you sit in the middle and gather rebounds.
You know what the Hornets rank defending the 3?
Probably like
29.
Oh, yeah.
You know where the Hornets rank in defending the effective field goal percentage, which to me is a true indicator versus just the average field goal percentage. We're
Probably
in the league in defending effective field goal, which is the combination of the throw and the jumper. 26.
Woo. Still bad.
So that evidence right there tells me where they need to build. Is your defense, as you had mentioned, the defense, the rebounding is a big factor. Defensive rebounding, because they're a good offensive rebounding team, but their defense needs to be addressed. The other thing I have is this roster going to be able to withstand another injury to Hayward when he goes down? Because if you look at his history, we have to prepare for that.
You're stealing my thunder.
And will your backup personnel develop enough to hold serve and offset some key injury or key injuries that you might have? And how do you do that on those tough nights on the road when you're banged up? You got to become a much better defensive team. How do you disguise the absence of certain guys? Better ball movement, a better offensive flow, and a more diversified approach offensively to go with the 3 instead of just the 3. Make yourself a tougher. Make yourself the commandment you tell guys. Make yourself a tough person to guard with and without the ball. That's why I go back to that original point.
And then that's why I love the acquisition of Oubre. People were kind of confused about that, but history tells you that Gordon will miss some games, and to me, he'd be the perfect type of backup because he can play both sides of that ball.
That's right.
Both of you kind of stole my thunder, but the specific question I wanted to ask you was, with Gordon Hayward's injury history, what was that a direct result? Do you think that was a direct result of the Hornets going after Oubre? I guess that's what my question is.
Yeah, you need an insurance policy. He's one of your main guys, if not your main guy offensively, because when Hayward is cooking, he is tough to defend. He's a very good basketball player.
And can you kind of go over like how important Hayward is to this particular team? Like how important you think he is to the Hornets?
Shoots the ball with range. He's a very, very smart player. He's got very nice vision. He warrants the defenses have to specially prepare for where he is on the floor. And he's a legitimate scorer every night for you.
Right.
So when I'm looking at, you never ignore trends in performance. So when I look at him and I look at his history, I go back and I look at the season and I go, his loss had how big of an impact on my team? Was I good enough to offset his loss? The answer I thought was no.
A resounding no in my opinion.
You bring in Oubre, you bring in a guy who will help offset when there is an injury to one of your starters, and who also has the flexibility on nights to start for you. And he will defend better. than what Monk did at that type of size. So
Absolutely.
that's why they got him. You got to have bullpen help over the long haul of an NBA season. You can't have your starters pitch every inning. You got to have backup help to come in and stopgap. So I thought that was a very nice acquisition to offset the wear and tear on Hayward's body.
I'm going to ask you a question. What is your opinion on the rookies, James Bouknight and Kai Jones? I like Bouknight. I see the potential there. But Kai Jones, he seems like more of a project to me. What are you thinking?
Okay, you bring in a rookie, and where is he as a player? As you get him now, what can he do right now?
Mm-hmm.
He's a rim-to-rim runner.
Mm-hmm.
Tremendous athleticism. He can handle the ball decently enough in the open floor. I've seen him play several times. He can grab it, get it, broken play, flourish, out of when it's non-structured. And if you want to get out in the open floor, he's a guy that could change ends of the floor for you. He is blessed with all kinds of potential.
Right.
How coachable he is, I don't know. I'm not coaching him. But he's going to be under the guidance of what I think is a staff that knows how to teach basketball. When you look at Bouknight and his talent.
Can you say that again for the fans, what you just said about the coaching staff?
I think they teach very well.
We do too.
I've seen James Brady.
We are in 100% agreement.
I'm sorry?
I said we are in 100% agreement. Thank you for saying that.
He can teach. He's a very smart basketball guy. I've seen him work up close. I saw Monty Williams, a very bright basketball man. I mean, he sees things. He's a multi-level. He's got multi-level eyes, I call it. He sees what's happening. He sees how it's happened, and he sees, where it evolved from, and he knows what he wants the results to be. He's a very, very good teacher. That's why I'm glad they stayed with him, because I think consistency of philosophy is key. But then when you bring in Bouknight, you bring him in. Here's an explosive young man who was asked to do a lot in college. And that impacted his numbers because of the fatigue factor and the attention that he drew defensively. That's a big test. They exhausted him. He had to do so many things.
And Jared, let me cut you off real quick, man. Because I want to speak to that point because I watched a lot of UConn basketball, and there was nothing around James Bouknight. I'm just kind of speaking to your point about how much of the workload he had on that particular UConn team, right?
And that impacted his shooting because your legs get tired. You're the target of all kinds of defensive attention. So that impacts your numbers. Now, in the preseason, he didn't shoot it and he didn't play as efficiently. I'd like to see him and how you will grade him, in which, we'll see how he adapts to it, is how many consecutive moments will he be stringing together as he gains experience?
Instead of the wow moments, like you call them. So
exactly. Wow, what a play. He should play more. Well, no, because you missed trips 2, 5, 7, 8, and 9.
Burn carry.
That's how I watch games. I mean, sometimes I'll just take a guy and I'll say, I'm going to watch him for 10 trips, offensively and defensively, up and down 10 times. I want to see what he does, even when the ball's not in his hands. You learn so much about a player. And then with a guard, too. So I want to see how he evolves. But I'm intrigued by the guys that they sign and the impact that they'll have. And I want to see the rebounding. And I want to see how they play offensively, because they have guys on this team who don't necessarily have to play on the 3 ball. They got slashers, cutters, catch, finish, drive it. I want to see if they mix their offensive game up a little bit more. But their defense and their defensive rebounding, my eyes are locking in right there. And they got to shoot it better because they're not a good jump shooting team. They can be.
Yeah, and specifically, I like to see Miles Bridges kind of be a little more diverse because we talk about a lot how he was close to being a 50, 40, 90 guy last season.
Yeah.
However, I don't want, just personal opinion, I don't want to see Miles kind of fall in love with the 3 too much because I think he's gifted enough to we see how explosive he is. we know he can get to the basket. We know he can get to the free throw line. So speaking to that point, along with the Hornets offense, I think he's the main guy that I want to see kind of diversify his game along with that Hornets offense, basically.
I think P.J. Washington and Bridges are two guys that could be fun to watch, but I agree with you. Right. I want to see Bridges get catches in the lane, go to the rim, go to the line, pick up an easy deuce. I want to see him take the three. I want to see him post it up and catch it, throw the scoring pass, the finish, diversify the game instead of becoming someone that's easier to locate and defend. And the same thing with Washington. Now here's the big key. Your Rozier and Ball in your guard play, okay? The playmaking that comes out of that, especially in the open floor, how my bigs will run and how I'll get into my – here's a problem. How I get to my offense, how do I build up my defense on the return trip? Because of all the flash offensively. And good defensive teams, how many to send to finish a play, cover on the backside, and build up the defense. You want to see all those little nuances, though. But I'm really looking forward to seeing Ball this year and Rozier and, of course, Gordon, and to see how that guard play. And I think I saw a stat the other day where the Hornets were running more pick and rolls in the preseason than they did the regular season of last year. The percentage went up. And they have the personnel to run that. But that becomes more efficient when I'm running a lot of stuff on that weak side, too. And Brago knows this because he was under Greg Popovich. And Brago
he knows a lot.
Teaching that. So I just want to see a more complete, diversified offensive team to milk the game, to score from different areas as much as they can.
Yeah. V-Man, I got a question for you. What's your prediction as far as the record this year for the Hornets?
The East is greatly improved.
Right.
They lost some games last year to teams they shouldn't have lost to. But, there's different factors. Injury, time of the travel, back-to-back, whatever. I think they have a legitimate shot to be a playoff team. So, I'm hoping that they crack 500. So that would put them at what? With the 82 game schedule, the 44 plus wins.
Yep.
Now remember, you can put that in there, but there's big factors that impact your numbers, right? Injury and fatigue. And fatigue will be determined by how your minutes are distributed and how well your backups develop, how reliable they come, and how big of an impact will the injuries have on who, when, and where. And that's going to happen eventually. And then there's the other factor. We used to just worry about the flu bug. Now you got to worry about COVID.
Yeah.
So as you design your roster, you got to consider all of these factors on nights to make up in case you lose a guy, not just to injury, but to the COVID protocol. Right. Another challenge for teams.
Gotcha. Guys, what are your record predictions for the year?
44-38.
Wow, that was quick. That's swift.
That's easy.
44-30. What did he say?
44 and 38.
44-38.
Oh, 44.
Yeah, but it's a play-in. They got playing game. They don't get.
I'm in that number with you. I could see that. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm really looking forward to this NBA season so much more. Maybe it's because we're coming out of some of the COVID mess, but I got the Golden State Laker game earmarked for 10 o'clock this week. I got the Hornet game. My Knicks open up against the Celtics, national TV. The Hornets are on national TV 8 or 9 times this year. And then don't get me started on the local cable companies with the product, please.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to talk about that.
So I'm hoping we're looking at playoffs, and because I'll watch this game all day long.
Yeah, same one. I'm going to go 41-41.
I'm going 42-40. So we're all in the same boat. We're on the same boat here. Yeah. So here's to Wednesday night, man. We're gonna get pumped, get excited. Sell out the cable box, Sean.
All right. So what's your prediction for Wednesday?
Look, I'm not going to give you a score or a win-loss. I'm going to tell you what I expect and what I want to see. I want to see intensity. I want to see a mad team. I want to see a team that said, you know what, we got our ass kicked the last game of the season, and we want some get back. I know it's the first game of the season.
You finished 0-6.
Then there's that. Okay. So instead of me predicting the score, I just want to see focus and intensity.
I want them to remember that game against Indiana.
Right.
That ended the season.
And I want them to play like that. I'm going to leave it at that.
I think we lose opening night because I think Indiana has this full complement of players, and their strength is the inside, and we don't. That's the problem. But they got Rick Carlisle as the coach now.
I mean, if they win, it's because Cody Zeller won't be there to push Miles Turner around. That's right. That's right, Hornets fans. I don't know why everyone is in love with Miles Turner. The guy's averaged 6 rebounds a game for his entire career, and Cody Zeller used to just
eat his lunch.
I don't get it. And in fact, I think that Kai Jones is essentially Miles Turner. Very high athletic guy. Yeah. Probably not a great rebounder, but I think I'm going to pick the Hornets to win.
I'm honestly going to be a homer, total homer. I'm going to pick us to win because I'm a homer. I'm being honest.
Okay, yeah. Hey, same here. I'm with you there.
You guys brought up the point. You were talking about the Indiana line you mentioned.
Yeah.
That's why I want to see the Hornets diversify their offense, because on certain nights like that, if you're more diversified offensively, wouldn't that increase the chances of you putting frontline personnel in foul trouble?
You're right.
Yes.
So you get into the bonuses earlier and get into the line drawing contact, so you're getting those free throw points very easily. You know, like they told Jordan back in the day in his career, diversified the game. Then he got stronger. He had his fade game.
Developed the mid-range game.
He had additional 6 to 8 extra points per night from free throws.
There you go.
Do the same thing if they mixed it up in attacking people to go along to complement the mid-range game and the 3-ball.
All right, let's head into these shout-outs, man. Got any shout-outs, Jerry V?
Yeah, I want to shout out to my lawyers, all 3 of them. They're bailing me out of that mess the other day. I swear to God, I didn't know it was in my trunk.
That's New York stuff. That's New York guy stuff right there.
Yeah. Right there. Any other shout outs, sir?
There was a tire bouncing around in the trunk. I didn't hear any muffled
sound. Oh, God.
YouTube, please don't take that.
Money. Don't owe me money.
Now we know why Charlotte's crime rate is so high. What you got, Jamal?
I want to shout at my grandfather. My grandfather turns 99 years old.
Oh, God bless him.
So shout out to Mr. Samuel Darby, who is 99 years old today.
That's beautiful.
Where's he from?
He's from your neck of the woods.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep, St. Stephen, South Carolina, right outside of Charleston, man. I don't think I want to be mean today. I don't think I have any shout outs today. Maybe I did and forgot them, but no shout outs today.
Shout out to all dog lovers.
There you go. Shout out to
the Hornet fans and to the Panther fans. Hang tough, be passionate, make demands, stick in there, be tough when things aren't going well. Your team, let people know about it.
There you go.
I'm just gonna shout out anyone who is surviving this pandemic.
Yeah.
A little bit of history. The flu pandemic of 1918 lasted 3 years. 3 years. And a third of the entire population of the earth was wiped out in that 3 years. So
we're still a depressing shout out. Man.
It is. But I said that to say that it's not going to get easier overnight. I'm sure most of us have noticed. If you if you go into the grocery store anytime in the last few months, it's like, hey, where's everything at? So just everyone just hang tough and be nice to each other, because that's really the only way we're going to get through this.
Wear a mask and get the shot. You want to be nice to people.
Yeah, hey, I wasn't gonna say just go full, but since Jerry did it,
be nice to people. Look at more than just me, more than just you. It's about community.
That's right.
No doubt.
Caring for yourself and caring for you.
Take your Kyrie Irving poster off the wall. Just take it off the wall.
So you had to say Kyrie. I was going to say that. I'm like, look
hey, man, I like Kyrie Irving, but like I say, athletes have a choice. They have choices that we don't have. Kyrie Irving's going to be okay.
He's going to be all right.
He's going to be just fine.
He's going to be okay.
That man got money
No. Hold. Money. No. See, you should.
No, well, by that I mean he can just.
Where's the team spirit as a team player?
Kyrie Irving, he's never been. Even before the pandemic, he was never that.
Hey, Jerry, I don't want to belabor this, but Stephen A. Smith was catching a lot of crap for what you just said. I'm going to leave it at that, man. That's it.
Hey, don't call yourself a team player and not do what's best for your team.
No.
It's been here, too. They're thinking the Nets got a shot to win the title. And you know what?
Yeah, I agree with you, but Kyrie's he was that way in Cleveland.
We're seeing the same person we've always seen.
Exactly.
Well, that's why they signed James Harden.
Yeah.
Insurance.
Because they know if Kyrie's not going to play, they got James.
Maybe Kyrie could go to the edge of the earth where it's flat
and look over the cliff. Look over the cliff.
All right, I'm done.
You are out of control. You're out of control. I am going to give a shout out first to the Chicago Sky of the WNBA who just won the championship today. Shout out to Miss Candace Parker for the homecoming. You went home and you won the championship. Woo-woo! And
shout out to Dawn Staley, man. Just signed a new contract.
Yeah, she's not going anywhere.
Shout out to Dawn Staley.
She loves South Carolina.
Former Charlotte Sting player.
And I want to share something with you guys on the screen. You will see it in a second. Just give me a second.
Oh boy. Jerry, we don't know what this is.
I got a picture for you, brother.
What?
Give me 1 second.
Is this a clip from my new movie?
Yeah, it's a new movie. You're Brad Pitt. Okay.
Yeah, where'd it go?
Any day now, Ronnie.
1 second. It's an overlay.
We got 2 months till Christmas.
All right, V-Maggie, you see that?
I don't see anything.
You don't see it on your screen?
No, not from my screen, no.
So hopefully the readers can see that. It's Kyrie burning banners from Cleveland, Boston, and now the Nets banner is on fire. Team spirit.
Okay, real quick shout to Kemba Walker, who had a great conversation on that was the Zach Lowe podcast.
Yeah.
Talks a lot about Charlotte and that whole situation.
MJ and Mitch made the right decision.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm not mad at it.
No, I don't think Kemba's not mad at it.
Kemba's a Nick.
Hey man, I'm excited for him.
I am too, actually.
I'm excited for him.
I'm excited when the Knicks are in the playing game, Jeremy.
Well, I'm a Knicks fan. I grew up in New York. I mean, I want to see the Hornets and the New Orleans Pelicans do very, very well. I got an emotional connection, but I grew up a Knicks fan. But I'm very happy for Kemba Walker. He's back in his hometown. He's from the Bronx. And I hope he has a great year.
Yeah, me too.
Same.
Tom Thibodeau, save his knees. Guys, thank you guys so much for watching.
Jerry, thank you.
Thank you for coming, Jerry.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to see you lovable knuckleheads. Love you deep.
All right. Look, please look. Don't make it a full 6 months again, okay?
Hey,
well, that's your call.
Hey, I got a question.
Yeah.
When you come back to the studio, Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donuts? Which one? Which one we getting you?
Dunkin'.
I thought so. I knew he'd answer that.
You were such an East Coaster.
All right. I'm the construction. Y'all be good, man.
Peace out.